Hey, this is Brendan from Comicon. Today we have some very special guests in our virtual studio. We've got Mr. Josh Werner from SourcePoint Press, and we've got writer extraordinaire, 20 plus years in the industry, Mr. Dirk Manning. Good morning, Josh and Dirk. How are you folks doing?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you again. It's always a pleasure to get to chat. So thank you, especially
Nice.
over such exciting things on the horizon here.
Now, I want to set this up just a little bit because I know you're excited about this, and I'm going to tell people why I know you're excited about this. I was driving back from Las Vegas, and I had just gotten into reception, and I get this frantic text, and it's like, dude, I've got to talk to you right now. I've got something to tell you. And I pick up the phone, and Dirk is just like, dude, SourcePoint Press, and this, and this, and this, and all these things, but you can't say anything for months. And that's how this all got started. So who wants to get started here and tell us exactly what the hell is going on?
I don't know. Should we rock scissors paper, or should we talk about the past to talk about the future?
Sure. Yeah, I'll set that up. So I'm the co-founder of SourcePoint Press. My name is Joshua Werner, and I co-founded SourcePoint in 2012. Our first releases came out in 2013, and in 2015 we brought Travis McIntyre in as CEO, and that's when things kind of started growing. And then SourcePoint became part of Oxeye Media. Oxeye Media was kind of this company that had multiple avenues of product types. So we had an entire division that was just board games. We had one that was comics. We had one for novels, etc. And things started kind of growing and growing and growing. And we ended up with 2 movies out, and we were getting bigger in the more global stage. We got Simon & Schuster on board to distribute. Things were really getting great. And then, COVID happened, and all of our nonstop touring of all of these different conventions in multiple countries kind of came to an abrupt halt, and the industry got really tumultuous, and Oxeye started slowing down as all of the normal amount of money that was coming in every month was kind of disappearing, and they were still staffing like so many employees. So SourcePoint kind of dwindled away into the background, and has been that way for a while as Oxeye kind of goes through this this struggle. And by this point we've had some really amazing the fans were so supportive, and we've got diehards that really love SourcePoint as a brand and what it stands for, which has always been raising up smaller voices, right? So it's always been about finding these incredible stories from these incredible creators that you might not otherwise get the chance to hear about and read, and elevating those voices. And that has always been kind of the mission. And now I will hand it over to Dirk Manning to tell you where that brings us to today and what the news is.
No pressure. This is the first time I guess I've had a chance to talk about this publicly. So again, thank you so much. And I guess long story short is that SourcePoint Press is back. We are moving back ahead into active publishing. We've been offering contracts, publishing agreements to creators and things like that. I'm very honored, and maybe we should split the screen here, because I'm very honored that I have taken or assumed, or I guess fell into the position of publisher with SourcePoint Press with Josh Werner as Chief Creative Officer. This is something that's been in the works for a while. I just talked to someone about it yesterday, and they're like, you picked a heck of a time to take over and move into this position as publisher, with everything going on in the direct market and everything else. But this has been something that's been going on for a little while now. But like Josh said, SourcePoint Press as a brand is something that for years and years now has held such an important space in the industry for creator-owned books especially. And like Josh said, there's been other stuff over the years that SourcePoint Press has done as well, even stuff that when I was serving as special projects manager, I worked with some of that. But at its roots, SourcePoint Press has always recognized strong, independent, creative voices from people that are out there just doing the work and putting out really cool stuff in the realms of horror, speculative fiction, pulp, and stuff like that. And rather than this be a situation where the brand continued to dwindle, I spoke with Travis and Josh at length, and I said, hey, What if we take things back to the roots? And as Josh kind of mentioned, Travis has moved into a new company that he founded when all this was happening with a whalebacker who's going to be serving as our logistics partner on a lot of this, and someone that I've worked with and tons of tabletop game companies work with. But the long and short is we're bringing it back. We want to be a doorway for people that are doing really good creator-owned graphic novels in the genres of horror and the genres of speculative fiction, the genres of pulp. And we'll stretch that a little bit here and there depending on the creators we're working with and things like that. But I think now more than ever, creators, and I dare say the industry, need someone like SourcePoint Press to be here, to be this door for people that want to get an assignment in Schuster and want to get their books out there. So here we sit, ready to bring it back up.
There was a time when SourcePoint was a much smaller, and we were very scrappy, young, hungry punks, just nonstop touring. It was before we even had distribution, and we had to fight tooth and nail for distro. We were not welcome in the industry, and we were very much the underdogs who were clawing our way in. And that momentum and that passion immediately was felt by everybody. We had this incredible vibe going, and that is part of the reason why the growth kind of spurt happened, and it happened really fast. We started taking on in-house IPs, a whole staff of 20 people. We had licenses left and right that were being thrown at us, and sometimes when viewed as success, happens that way, it can actually be really slippery slope. It's very dangerous for a small business to have too success too fast, because the amount you have to pour into the projects grows and grows and grows. And all it takes is a few things to kind of fall apart to make that stability crumble. And what Dirk is doing right now is really rebuilding that stability, that same stability that we had. The passion never goes away. The amazing independent creators who have fantastic ideas and creations never goes away. It's all about building a home for it where we can be that partner with those creators to take that next step. So if that means stripping away all of this extra flashy stuff that is really cool on the surface, but isn't the main priority of what SourcePoint set out to do, then so be it. We're going to go right back to square one, and we're going to grab the coolest, most unheard creators that deserve to be heard, that deserve their voices out there. And you know what? Sometimes that means some of the big boys recognize what we're doing. Some of the more famous people want to be part of that, and they're welcome too. And that's when we put them together. We take these larger celebrity voices, or these long career, standing individuals that have a large following, and we pair them with creators who don't have that following but deserve it. And we just kind of lift all these ships up together. That's what it's always been about, and I'm so happy to kind of return to those roots.
Yeah, and I don't want to bury the lead here either. SourcePoint was so big at one point, and I think it's very important to recognize all the success we've had, which is why this isn't a situation where myself or why I even talked to Josh about, hey, let's take this back to its roots, because SourcePoint was huge for a while, and we built up all this equity and all this faith in regards to like the type of products we put out, and we're in a very tumultuous time right now in the comic book industry and things like that, and things didn't quite fall the way we wanted to. So bringing it back to what readers know us for, what retailers know us for, and what creators know us for is really what this is going to be all about. I like the term that Josh used, scrappy. I always say I'm too punk rock for them as much of a metal guy as I am, right? But it's just like we are working with creators that are just bound and determined to put out great product in the spaces of horror, in the spaces of speculative fiction, in the place of pulp. And then, like Josh said, make no mistake, we've been working in the background for a while. We have coming up the first ever graphic novel with Josh Mallerman, the New York Times bestselling author of Bird Box. His first graphic novel is going to be with SourcePoint Press. We just worked with Ron Chaney from Chain Entertainment to bring back London After Midnight, like the famous lost, horror movie from the 1920s. But on top of that, We also have some creators that maybe people have seen out there on the convention circuit for a long time and grinding it out. And if we can provide them not only the opportunity to own their own work, and when I say own their own work, I'm just getting this away, literally own their own IP,
100%.
own your own stock, own your own everything. But we can help amplify that, and we can help get those books out there in the market and things like that, and be part of a brand, be part of a collective that's going to be associated with some really cool up and coming creators, as well as like New York Times bestselling authors and Hollywood legacy families. That's what this is going to be all about. And again, just bringing it back to its roots, bringing it back to what people know SourcePoint for, where I think in some ways we really cut our teeth as a publisher, including myself. You know, I'm not just a publisher, I'm a member. You know, it's like I've worked with SourcePoint for a long time. So I'm really excited to be able to open this door up and just go back to our roots, you know, while also still working with some of the people that and fans and retailers that know what we do and are ready to see what we have to bring back to the table, back to the industry at full speed.
Nice. You guys both touched on a point a little bit about just kind of being off the mainstream path a little bit. And it's getting more and more with social media and just the connectivity that people have going to conventions and stuff and being able to access their favorite creators, their favorite genres and things that they've never seen before. You know, the business is changing. And a lot of times people look at a horror book that's coming out of Marvel and they're like, yeah, but it's Marvel. What's it really going to be? And then they see something coming out from SourcePoint Press or one of the smaller publishers or something like that. And it just feels a little bit more authentic. It feels a little bit more connected. It's almost like you're buying local to get your produce instead of going to the supermarket chain. So let's talk a little bit about that.
One of the things with larger publishers, and I know this because at our biggest, this was something that I also had to do. For a while, you know, I took over as editor-in-chief for Travis, and I was in charge of all of these. We were doing almost 15 titles. I would say at the most we were doing 15 titles a month, at the least 12. And you get to a point where you start to say, okay, so we need something to fill this category, this category, this category. And if we look at the numbers and we look at the previous year's sales, we know that this category should take up 60% of our releases. So we need to focus on this. And okay, so now I need to go find one of these and bring it into the mix. That is how Marvel does it. That's the reason why when you get a horror title from Marvel, it feels passionless. It's because it was forced. It was because it was there for the numbers. It was there for reaching a demographic that they think would make up this much more profit for them. We're stripping all that away, and we're just focusing on creators who are downright passionate about the genre that suits their storytelling and at the same time suits the legacy of the brand. So SourcePoint has been known for quality. It's the reason why people like Mallerman and Ron Chaney are continuing to work with SourcePoint even during this slow lull in contacting us, is because the brand has been known for quality storytelling. No matter what, it got to a point where people would say, well, if SourcePoint put it out, I know I'll like it because they're my kind of vibe. So while that can be difficult to maintain while also growing and branching out into other genres and other storytelling mediums sometimes, the trick is always going to be focusing on creators who have something awesome in their hands and they know it and they love it and they're passionate about it. Those are the people we want to work with, and those are the people we want to help elevate. And when that happens, it's always going to come through to the reader. You're going to know, like, that's why I want to buy from this publisher, because clearly this isn't just a numbers thing for them. They care, about storytelling.
Yeah. The creator is ultimately the source point of everything that they're going to do.
I see what you did there. I see what you did there.
Yeah. That was a joke 20 years in the making. No, but in all seriousness, like Josh said, we are looking to creators that want to put their work out their way, right? Corporate comics are like a roller coaster. You get in the car, it doesn't matter how many loops and twirls and everything else they take you on. At the end of the day, the car goes right back to where it was, and that creative team gets off, and the next creative team, it goes right back where it started, and that team gets off, the next team gets on, and they take you on another ride, and they come right back to where it started and move on. That's fine. Hey, and there's a lot of value and joy brought to a lot of people through that type of storytelling. What we have done at SourcePoint historically, and what we're going back to, doubling down on this, is give me that story that only you can tell. And give me that story that as a creator that you are so passionate about. Maybe you've been doing it without a publisher. Maybe you've been doing it without access to distribution, and you've been out there every weekend and hoofing your books out there on the road and things like that. Going to conventions and grinding it out and picking up readers one at a time. And I say that because those people that know me know I've done that for over 2 decades. I found actually just the other day my first ever professional badge was from 2004. Right? 21 years I've been at this game. And I see so many other creators in this position. And I've been very, very fortunate. I've gotten to work with, under Jim Valentino at Image Comics. I worked over at Devil's Due, Dave Comics. And I've worked with several publishers that have allowed me to kind of carve that path for myself. And the thing I've always wanted more than anything is I said, I want the opportunity for my work to be as accessible to as many people as possible without having to compromise the integrity of my vision. I'm a horror guy, right? That's it.
You don't say. You do horror?
Yeah, have you heard? Yeah, I'm a comic guy, and I love. I mean, you can see my office is surrounded with comics. Most of the stuff in this office is like horror adjacent. There's so many other creators out there that. And sadly, we're not going to be able to work with all of them, but we're going to help take a very curated line of creators and help give them those opportunities to get their work out there as well, if they're willing to invest in themselves, if they're willing to continue doing what they're due. Again, we're in a crazy time right now in publishing. We've heard all these stories about, publishers or even distributors like holding people's stuff ransom and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's scary. And like Josh said earlier, it just takes one domino to fall for some people and their whole infrastructure can get wiped out. As a creator and in a role as publisher, I want to make that as, I guess, what's the opposite of fail-safe, but it's like fail-safe of not happening as possible. Mm-hmm. You're going to continue to control your own destiny. We will help you through the brand. We will help you through SourcePoint, being aligned as a SourcePoint creator. But you are still you. You are still your brand. We're not bringing you in to change what you're doing. We're bringing in what you're doing because our vibe attracts our tribe. And we want to find those people and help them.
Now you're jumping ahead here because I was about to mention a quote that you had sent me, and it says, "What we're offering from SourcePoint Press isn't going to be for everyone." And I mean that in terms of creators and readers alike. Mm-hmm. However, we're firm believers that your vibe attracts your tribe. And for the creators who are willing to drive their own destiny and readers who are looking for fresh new offerings in the realm of horror, pulp, and speculative fiction, we welcome you to enjoy what we'll be offering through SourcePoint Press. So just to back up on that a little bit, what would you recommend to creators who want to work with SourcePoint Press now to consider before submitting their work?
I've joked internally, and I might as well say this publicly. I want to have very offensively transparent submission guidelines, right? We're looking for creators who are willing to invest in themselves and looking at, we're not doing single issues, for example. We're only doing trade paperbacks. I understand that's a financial barrier for some creators. And if you're not there yet, that's okay. Then we're not going to be the right fit for you because we're not going the single issue, the floppy route. We're looking at creators who want to do something where we can set them up with print brokering so they can print 500 copies of a graphic novel. So we have enough to distribute. So they have enough to go on the road and push it. But also I would encourage people to look at the history of what we've done at SourcePoint, but also look at as we announce our current slate of titles. We're looking for horror. We're looking for people that are passionate about horror and speculative fiction, science fiction, and pulp. There's going to be a couple exceptions here and there from creators that maybe dabble in this world but want to stretch out. But like I said, this isn't going to be the fit for everybody, and that's okay because I understand what it's like to be a creator as well. And I know, Josh, you've been there too, where when you're just getting started, you're pitching to every publisher. Mm-hmm. This is a 2-person operation right now at best as we're bringing this back, right? And I I have a lot of anxiety about the fact that there's going to be people I like who I'm going to have to tell them this probably isn't the right fit for you, what we're doing right now. And that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough for people to hear. It probably won't have as much to do with quality because we're in a golden age of quality comics with independence, but it has to fit very specific criteria for them to be successful with what we're offering and for us to help them be successful. So look at the stuff we've done. When we have the submission guidelines up on the revamped website, look at what that entails. Be honest with yourself if this is where you're at. But again, if creators need to go do Kickstarters and crowdfunding to build up to a trade paperback, do it. Show us the first issue in advance, because we can tell you, like, yeah, when you get there, and I've told some creators this already, I'm like, this looks really good. When you get to the trade spot and you're willing to go deep on this and invest in yourself, talk to us and we can help make that as financially viable for you as possible.
Yeah, that's the wonderful thing about, running a publishing company for so many years. And I've also worked with several other publishers. There was a time when the paper crisis was happening, when Diamond shut down during COVID for a while, when a lot of publishers that would normally be seen as rivals were in really strange, unique positions where they were like, I need to meet FOC, but I can't use my normal printer because something's either wrong or they don't have paper or suddenly their prices skyrocketed so high that all profit would be gone, and et cetera, where I would be able to take my resources and then offer to partner with all of our competitors to keep them in business. Because the goal here is comics, right? It's not to eat each other alive. It's comics, and survival of comics is important for all of us. And luckily, because I've been doing this for so long, and not only for SourcePoint, but for several other people as well, and publishers, we just have assets and infrastructure at our fingertips that a regular creator, an independent creator, can't get themselves. Mm-hmm. So if you are someone who is self-publishing, you're someone who is kickstarting stuff, you've got enough of a following, and you're about to consider taking the step into printing a bunch of books, trade paperbacks that are going to, sit in your garage and hopefully you can sell them 5 at a time over the next however many years, then you might want to talk to us, because one, we're going to be able to help you get that product in stores so that it's not in your garage waiting, it's on shelves, which helps elevate you as a creator. And also, whatever you would have paid to self-publish, you're not going to pay that much. We can actually get you better pricing, exclusive pricing that's not customer facing, through deals with factories that I've made over the course of years. And that's really valuable to. It would be easy for both Dirk and I just to go back to just being creators and just creating for ourselves and taking our little resources and keeping them for ourselves to better our own careers. But really what we have here is a set of tools that is going to help small creators who are self-publishing. That is really the goal here. It is to reach out and help boost them. If you're looking for, if you're just hoping to get hired and get paid to just create whatever idea comes in your head for a company, that's not us. That's not.
Go send a resume to Marvel then, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
For the next 20 years and cross your fingers. But if you're just ready to make your thing and own your thing and own, all of your rights to it 100% and not get tied up with, we've seen publishers who had some clauses in their contracts that are nothing short of predatory. You want something transparent and simple that'll help you take the next step. We're the people to talk to.
Yeah, and I want to say two things. One, I am a client of SourcePoint. The deal that other people are being offered is the deal that I am under myself. I can do no better by anyone than that, which brings me to my second point. I've been doing this very, very long. I've been a writer and a creator and more or less living in the independent creator space for a very long time. This was not something I aspired to do. I was not gunning to one day become publisher, but rather a publisher. But rather, this was a situation where, like Josh said, he nailed it. I could keep this to myself, or I can say, you know what, hold a hand out. It's what I've, and if you look at my whole career, it's what I've done with Right or Wrong, right? It's what I've done anywhere. People that have talked to me at conventions, and they can tell you, it's like, I want to pay it forward. I'm looking more towards the end of my career than the beginning. I mean, that's just a fact. You know, I mean, I've been doing this 22 years now, right? That's just where it sits. And if we can continue to provide opportunities, whether it be directly through SourcePoint or like Josh was getting at, even through our logistical partners like in Whalebacker, you know, Travis and Josh have built this, you know, this amazing secondary infrastructure where maybe SourcePoint's not the right label for you, but we can also at least give you a little time and maybe help you out. I just talked to a creator the other day about the fact that he was looking to do more of a print on demand for a graphic novel. And I said, hey, what's your unit cost looking like? And he said, I'm going to print X amount of copies for this much money. And I was like, I'm going to be transparent. I was blown away. I'm like, you know, you can print this many more and then get the unit price down to here and then make up your profit. And I was shocked at how many people aren't aware of that.
Right.
So again, if we can give you know, we're a 2-person operation at best. We both have other jobs. Again, just being fully transparent, you know, but this is a situation where for creators that want to come into SourcePoint that fit the model of what we're doing, we want to help elevate their voices. But also this is an opportunity through not only SourcePoint, but also both the tenure that both Josh and I have in this industry, as well as the means to our logistical partners like Whalebacker and things like that, that if we can provide creator services that way as well, it's comics. We want to help people out. You know, this isn't kill the king, become the king. This isn't like, if I'm successful, that doesn't mean other people will be less successful.
It's not pie. Just because I get some doesn't mean you don't.
Exactly. It's comics. And I would love nothing more than to see so many more great creator-owned comics come out of all this chaos in the industry right now, but also bring back SourcePoint properly. Bring this back to what we were in the beginning. Really high quality, esoteric, horror, speculative fiction, pulp with creators you know about, creators you don't know about yet, but we'll learn to love.
Now, in closing here, because we've gotten the warning from producer Eric there, I just want to point out that you missed an opportunity to use this amazing tagline that you had put in the press release that says "getting back to the point," and you had a perfect setup for that, and then you missed it. So bad. But yeah, I want to thank you guys for your time today. As a reader of the weird independent horror, I love that stuff. I love the weirder it gets and the more creative it gets. That's me. And you don't get that from the biggest publisher. Sometimes from Dark Horse, sometimes from Image, but pretty regularly it comes from the smaller publishers. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing. Really looking forward to what comes next. I want to thank you guys both for your time, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much.
And get to the point. The SourcePoint.